Hello, you're here with T,
And Matthew.
and we are the Bing Zang Zoom podcast. Can you dig it? What we got here today, Matthew? You can start it off. What you got?
Well, we've actually got several pieces of news. We've got some sports news. We've got some comic book entertainment news. The one that I would like to start off with is we've got some news from Marvel Comics about possibly having some new characters in the TV shows and the movies, et cetera, et cetera. There's been a rumor for a while that Charlie Cox may be coming back as Daredevil.
Yeah.
Everybody's excited about it. That's been floating around the zeitgeist for a bit now. Basically, the TV shows were under a slightly different contract because they were contracted to Netflix,
Mm.
and so they couldn't use the characters until the Netflix contract ended, which is coming up now. So there's been a rumor a while back that Charlie may be returning as Daredevil for Spider-Man as his lawyer and not actually
Mm.
as Daredevil. And then there were some things about, well, no, they're going to reboot it because they didn't like the TV shows because the TV shows were underneath a different division. And then now they're saying that they might not. So it's all been up in the air. What do you think's going to happen?
I don't know. I mean, in any iteration, it'll be good for Charlie Cox, but as far as what we want to see, we don't want to see him just as a lawyer. We want to see him as Daredevil, uh, whooping some behind. And yeah, I just think that to not only see him in like in the show like that's cool, and I would like to see that happen again, but to see him in the movies would be like the icing on top of the cake. Just to see really any of the characters from the Netflix adaptations move on and go into the movies would be pretty golden in terms of just being able to stay on track with the same characters, same people playing the same characters. Like we know certain people as the character, and they do that character so well. Let's continue on with that instead of recasting that part to somebody who might not get the best fanfare.
Right, definitely. And consistent continuity is something that's important. And you could say, oh, well, history got changed slightly with the Infinity War and the time travel and this and that. But being able to see the same characters that we know established in these roles continue
Right.
going forward would be great. I'm also really hoping that they bring in Cloak and Dagger from the Freeform TV show into a Spider-Man movie because they were actually very intertwined with Spider-Man in the comics. I think that would be a cool mix.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Maybe I didn't read that far into the Spider-Man stuff, but interesting. In what way are they associated?
Well, it depends on the continuity, of course, because
Right, which
multi-universe and stuff. But essentially, they were homeless teenagers, and Spider-Man also being a teenager.
mm,
They just kind of partnered up for a while and kind of grew up together, and they were more friends than, say, Peter and Captain America because of the age difference and stuff.
right.
And in the Ultimate Universe, it's actually Miles Morales who they kind of partner up with as
Mm,
opposed to, Peter Parker.
Peter
But
Parker, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. So, in other superhero news though, we got some She-Hulk news, right? I don't know if there's any
Yes.
She-Hulk fans out there, but we got some news for y'all. So, what's that? What's going on with the She-Hulk stuff?
Well, She-Hulk for a while has been it's going to be one of the Disney Plus shows that they can do. And they've been talking about it and hinting at it and casting it, et cetera, et cetera. And it seems that they finally found their She-Hulk, which is, I think you've got it in front of you, right? Who is it?
Yeah, Tatiana Maslany, if I'm not ruining that name.
Tatiana.
Yeah,
You're
Maslany.
close at any rate, yeah. Tatiana. So we've
Right,
got
Tatiana.
Tatiana as She-Hulk. Now Tatiana's got a good record to her. She's been in like a bunch of just like one episode of this, one episode of that. Nothing too major, except for Black Orphan, where she did a lot of work on that series. Um, but the interesting thing to me about this is that when they were casting, and this stuff happens in Hollywood all the time, but they put out, we're looking for an Allison Brie type, was what was on the casting notice. We want an Allison Brie type of person.
Yeah.
And so Allison Brie found out about this, and she was like, I'm an Allison Brie type. And so she wanted to play She-Hulk like really badly. For those of you who don't know who Allison Brie is, she's on the show Glow, but she's most famous for being on Community, which, you know, a lot of the other actors from that show ended up going on to play superheroes. You know, Donald Glover obviously had a very good career after that show. But so it's interesting to me that they didn't go with Allison Brie when what they were wanting was an Allison Brie type, and Allison Brie was interested in the part.
That doesn't make a lot of sense. Hey, we want somebody just like Matthew, right? We want a Matthew type. Yeah, this guy's pretty good. Hey, I want the part. Yeah, you know, let him go with this guy. He looks just like you. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand how that works. What was the casting like? Did she get there in time? Like that's what we need to figure out. Like,
yeah, those are the questions.
You know, get there ahead of time before Allison Brie actually said, "Well, you know, I want the part." And was it something like that, or is it just?
Well, you know, and Allison Brie's a bigger name too. They might have like the contract money wise might not have lined up.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. There are a lot of reasons that it could be.
True. We want to look alike, but we don't want the actual person because then we have to pay.
Pay them more, right? Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. All right.
But Allison Brie actually had a bit of a connection with Marvel Comics because back in the day when the Avengers was coming out, the first Avengers, somebody had photoshopped her head on Captain America, so it looked like a female Captain America, and that picture went like viral everywhere. So Allison Brie needs to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe some way.
How was it received? You know, it went viral, but how was it received? Was it received well? Was that something that people would?
Yeah, people loved it. People thought it was great, you know, and thought that you know she was the perfect female Captain America. But you know,
isn't Steve Rogers' daughter, right? She eventually becomes Captain America. So I mean, that would have been a big jump. But
I don't remember that, but I do know that Captain America in the 2099 series is female.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I might be tripping as to whether it's his daughter or not. Yeah.
There's so much continuity.
Need to read back up. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Moving right along. Moving into boxing. We got two things going on here in the boxing world. We'll start off with the one that we don't know so much about. Maybe you can give me some insight as to this one. Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. And how did this come about?
2020 is how it came about, man.
Right.
This is just such a weird kind of concept. So, you know, Logan Paul, famous YouTuber, very controversial YouTuber, had entered the boxing world against KSI. He lost his first professional boxing match against KSI due to a controversial call, right? So it's like if he was deducted points differently, he might have won or might have tied, but because of the call, he lost, right? So he's been wanting to get into another match to prove his merit. And he I think it was Antonio Brown he was supposed to box, and then that fell apart, and this and that, and things keep happening. But so they reached out to Floyd Mayweather Jr., who a lot of people say is the number one boxer in history, not just, you know, number one boxer alive. And allegedly it's going to happen. Now, the thing is they haven't officially signed up paperwork yet. You know, they're still talking money and this and that. But both sides are saying, yeah, this is going to happen. And a lot of people are saying that they're like, yeah, you know, if Logan Paul can get in there, if he can get in there, it's just going to take one punch and Floyd's going to go down. And I'm like, one thing, I don't believe that's true. But secondly, would he be able to get in there, right? Those are the questions.
But you have somebody who's accomplished, like Conor McGregor, go in there and try to knock Floyd Mayweather out. And mind you, I'm 1,000% sure that Logan Paul is not better than Conor McGregor on the feet.
No.
The difference is here that what is this? Is this supposed to be like a catchweight bout, or have they not gotten to that point yet?
I don't think they've gotten to that point yet, or at least none of the articles I've read has talked about it. I know Conor McGregor's really pissed off about the whole thing.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
like, how does he get to
It's my
fight him?
round two, right?
Yeah.
Logan Paul of all people, man. Even if it is catchweight, it doesn't really matter. Floyd, I'm pretty sure if somebody is like a couple of pounds more than him, it's not really an issue. He's come in on the low end of what he was supposed to be in a fight, anyways. You know, where other people might have had a couple pounds advantage on him, anyways, in order to be lighter and faster.
Yeah.
And as if he needs it against Logan Paul. I think a 20-pound weight difference is not going to make much of a difference. Actually, probably going to be a disadvantage if they do it at catch weight.
Yeah. I mean, I
That's
think Logan Paul is a good boxer for
Yeah.
a beginner, but
right.
to
Right.
go up against the best in history. But like I saw a comedian, I think his name is Josh
Man.
Frey, if my memory is correct. But he's like, the way 2020's been going, Logan
Hey.
Paul's gonna wipe the floor.
That day, Floyd would just catch a stomach ache or something like that, just right at the wrong time. Just, hey man, feed him this right before the bout. Let him warm up for 30 minutes so it sits in his system. And as soon as he goes out, you see, hey, Floyd's not bouncing around like he normally would. He's kind of flat-footed. Logan Paul with the right. Logan Paul with the left. Down goes Floyd. I'm saying it now because this is not what you're gonna hear. So
No, exactly.
I'm just letting you
You
hear
have
it.
to loop this part. Well, what's interesting that you have to think about is Logan Paul. Again, it was a controversial decision, but he lost against KSI, who was another first-time boxer, right? So it would be really funny if he beats Floyd Mayweather now and be like, oh yeah, lost my basically amateur pro introductory fight, but then beat the greatest boxer in the world.
How do you go from there to there? Hey, listen, first of all, shout out to Logan Paul, though, because Logan Paul is definitely doing this thing to even be in talks with Floyd Mayweather's camp to even fight him, because Floyd isn't even coming back for Pac. Got a shot at beating him. And these are people who do this, like this, and have been doing this for so long. And then Logan Paul comes up and he's like, hey, man, hey, it seems like just a little conversation that they had, like in passing, like, hey, you want to fight sometime? Yeah, I'll fight you, no problem. And Floyd's just dictating how long he'll let him last. Like, yeah, I'll take the $9 million for 3 minutes.
Right. Until the paperwork's signed, anything could happen, right? It could still get canceled and whatnot. But I mean, it seems like it's going to happen. And like you said, you got to respect Logan Paul, especially going from, 2 matches that he's ever done, only one being professional, and then to get to fight the biggest boxer in the world. I mean, you got to respect that hustle.
Yeah. And speaking of respect, because, I do have respect for Logan Paul for that, definitely. Because most people will probably not do that for fear for their safety. But speaking of fear for safety, Roy Jones recently said that his fight with Mike Tyson, that he feels like he's made a mistake. And he said that he feels like he made a mistake because, in watching Tyson's fight videos, you see a lot of damage being put into those pads. And if we exchange those pads for Roy Jones's body, Roy Jones probably isn't gonna fare too well. He was quoted as saying that he's still Mike Tyson, and that he's one of the strongest and most explosive people to touch a boxing ring. And mind you, Mike Tyson is 54 years old, and Roy Jones is 51 years old. So he is older than him by 3 years, but Roy Jones might have had a longer career, I believe. Like Roy Jones kept boxing when Mike Tyson was done boxing. I think Roy Jones's last fight was like 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And so,
yes, something like that.
Sometimes that can accumulate, and that might not be a good thing. But I don't think that they should have fought September 12th. I think that them pushing it back to November not only gives them an option for a venue, where people can potentially come in with temperature checks and everything like that, pay
Yeah.
for seating. But it will also give Roy Jones some time to actually catch up because Mike Tyson, who knows how long he's been preparing for? He just comes out the blue with a video like, I'm back. Who knows when he started? Roy Jones is just getting off the couch like, oh, okay, we're fighting. All right, cool. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
sign
yeah,
that paperwork. But
exactly, right.
September, that's a little too soon, buddy. Let's push this down to November. I still think that he's going to get in there and fight Mike Tyson just because he said he would. But if for some reason something happens, he gets injured in training or he just bows out, Shannon Briggs said that he will definitely take that fight because it was originally going to be Shannon
Yeah,
Briggs versus Mike Tyson. But
which I think would have been an incredible match to watch.
oh
But
yeah,
I mean,
oh
Roy is a beast though, man. I mean that
yeah,
is really a good comparison. And I think Roy is coaching boxers nowadays, which of course Shannon Briggs obviously is, bringing it back to the Logan Paul thing because he was Logan
yeah,
Paul's coach.
yeah,
But yeah, so it's interesting that these people are kind of staying active in boxing, even if it's not, actual competition. But yeah, like you said, Mike Tyson, we don't know how long he's been back to
yeah.
training. It's a
and,
toss
and
up. I really don't have any idea who could win right now.
and he said something interesting as well. Mike Tyson did. Mike Tyson said that boxing, like the training, the getting in there, the fighting with another human being, makes him erect. Is this the guy that you want to get in the ring with in any capacity?
You start getting hit from three directions after a little while.
We don't know where that hook came from. It came from left field.
Oh,
No, right
what the
field.
hell? I got hit on both sides of the face and the stomach all at the same time. What the hell happened?
Oh, we've never seen this before. Jones down in the first.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, take a nut shot to the stomach.
It makes the whole biting the ear thing make a little bit more sense though, doesn't it?
Yeah, right. He was just trying to whisper in his ear, and then he started
Yeah,
nibbling.
nibble on it a little bit, and it just got out of hand.
I love this stuff. Oh man, but yeah, Mike is definitely an otherworldly character. That with everything that he's endured in his life, um, both prior to boxing and then after boxing, it's crazy that the man has any semblance of sanity.
Yeah,
I,
he's had a pretty good acting career too.
yeah, he's been in a couple of movies,
Yeah,
which is pretty good. I like to see Mike Tyson, do well for himself. I definitely wouldn't want to see Mike, strung out or being a case where he wasn't able to take care of himself or take care of his family or anything like that. I don't want to see that happen to anybody, but it's just Mike is that much of an inspiration and an icon to a lot of people, and a lot of boxers started boxing because of watching Mike Tyson box. And so to see him do well, it lends itself to some of the people who are looking up to him.
right.
Lends itself well to the people who are looking up to him. Roy Jones, again, Roy Jones is not a slouch. Roy Jones is somebody who definitely has the skills and capability, and you have to give it to him because he is able to assess what his capabilities are at the moment, and along with Mike Tyson's, like that goes to show you that's a coach right there. That's a coach's
Yeah,
mentality. Like, oh, okay, I might have made a mistake in terms of being ready. I see what Mike is capable of. I see what his mentality is. He's right back to being the Mike Tyson of old. And in order to be able to get in the ring with him, I'm going to need to step it up. I need to become the Roy Jones of old, you know, plus some. And at this stage, with everything being what it is now. So I just think that that's smart of him, and I think that if he does step out of the way, it's not like it's we missing out on the super fight. Because guess what? You know who's right there to take the spot? Shannon Briggs. And I mean, between Shannon Briggs and Mike Tyson, you got two of the craziest boxers ever.
that would be a wild match for
Yeah,
sure.
goodness
Yeah,
gracious. I don't think like that's as close to Mike Tyson's style that Mike Tyson would probably come to. And I mean, Shannon, he's a little bit less, I'd say, a dog fight-ish. He'll use the jab and but that's as close as it comes. I don't think anybody else is fighting like that.
Right. And Shannon Briggs has the most first round knockouts of any boxer in history. So I don't know enough about Shannon Briggs's like prolonged matches. I'd have to go back and rewatch some to see if he starts to gas out after a while.
Right.
You know,
He's actually a great boxer though. Like he's a great besides just that because sometimes when you do stuff like that, people don't get to see your other skills, and then they typecast you as being, oh, he's just a knockout artist. If somebody's able to get past that, then they'll be able to whoop him. He's gone the distance with some other fighters, and he fights smart. Once if that doesn't work, he switches to the next thing. It's not just like Woodley's mistake. I'm just waiting for the right hand. I'm waiting for the opening for the right hand. Look, that might not come because people know to look for the right hand. They what you're good at. Once they know what you're good at, now they're gonna exploit your weaknesses because they know that that's what you're going for. And if that's all your plan is, and you don't switch up the plan, well, it's over. Yeah. Who would you go for between both opponents, Mike Tyson or Roy Jones? Who you got there?
Between Mike Tyson and Roy Jones, right now, I've got to say Mike Tyson. If it was a little bit of the older days, I probably would say Roy Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I think Roy Jones is a little bit more of a level-headed boxer and able to take things coming at him better. However, Roy Jones, I don't think has been stepping it up as much as Mike Tyson is. And again, like we said, we don't know how long Mike Tyson's been training. He could have been planning on making a comeback for 2 years and been training this whole time. We don't know. Right? But those Mike Tyson videos have just been really frightening. And, like we said, Roy Jones, he said it himself. He's very level-headed. He's very good at figuring out where he is compared to his opponent. And he said, I think I'm in a little bit of danger here right now.
That's honesty. Sometimes, there's a difference between bravery and stupidity. Like, when you're going and you're doing something because, there's no other alternative. This is what you're going to do. You're not going to run. You're going to go in. You're going to go at it. And then there's just like, hey, I'm coming off the street and I'm going to go and fight the best, the best ferocious, vicious boxer that there's ever been.
Logan Paul.
Get my basically. Exactly. Like that. That is not a calculated move. You have the complete difference between Logan Paul and Roy Jones. Roy Jones, calculated move. He jumped at the opportunity at first because this is a fight that he wanted, but then now he has to assess where he is, and he says that he might have made a mistake. Whereas Logan Paul might look at it as, man, I don't care. I'm not trying to get none of that. Or it could be financial gain only, because some people will get in there and mix it up with the best, and they know that it's like 90% chance that it's not going to go their way. But he will be receiving a payday just for standing in there with Floyd Mayweather.
Let's be honest, though. Right now, yes, there's the public humility and and stuff like that, humiliation. There's things like that you have to take into mind. But if somebody was to say to you right now, "I'll pay you $10 million to get into a boxing ring with Floyd Mayweather Jr." There's a good chance that I would take it, even knowing that there's no way I'm going to win.
Yeah, that's true. That's somewhat of a come up.
I'll probably lose 3 teeth, but with $10 million, I can have those replaced.
I can get platinum teeth put in on this side if I want to. Yeah. Buy a mansion, get knocked out and buy a mansion, or do none of that. Yeah. Well, this has been another edition of the Bing Zang Zoom podcast. We'll see you next time. Farewell. Yeah. All right.